Hello members of the Locust Grove Ward. Welcome to a quick tutorial on how to index like a pro. I do want to add a disclaimer that I'm not a professional indexer, but these are some tips and tricks that have helped me as I've tried to learn how to index. I've come up with a list of several recommendations that will help you index like a pro. I will go through each one of these in a little bit of detail and show a few examples along the way. My first recommendation is to index using a computer or a laptop. I want to be clear here, there is not an app for indexing on a mobile device or a tablet. Of course, I told my kids it was impossible to index on a phone, and Kathleen had to prove me wrong. I do want to tell you it is possible to log on to Family Search from a phone web browser and navigate to web indexing, but it is not optimized for small devices. I would strongly recommend using a computer or laptop to help you index like a pro. But if you really want to see how you could do it on a phone, Kathleen did a screen capture on her phone to show the challenges of using a phone for indexing. Here's Kathleen on her phone. She goes to indexing, web indexing. This is the familiar screen under My Batches. Can't find the button to find batches. Oh, there it is. She clicks it. She's finally able to choose a batch. Has to move things around a little bit. Selects her batch, and then unfortunately cannot read or find the X on the instructions, so she has to rotate her phone until she can finally index something. So it's challenging. The next thing I want to talk about is how to find a project that is right for you. There's a few things that we can talk about here. First, after clicking Find Batches, you can filter your search results by difficulty, beginning, intermediate, and advanced. But I've found that the beginning ones aren't necessarily always the easiest. So to help our ward get started with indexing projects that are better suited to those beginners, I have adopted several projects for our ward. To see these projects, scroll down on the web indexing page to the Locust Grove Ward link and click it. Then scroll down on the next page to see the Adopted Projects section. I would recommend that you start with one of these adopted projects to help you index like a pro. Okay, now I'd like to demonstrate how to find those adopted batches that will help you get started indexing. After logging into Family Search, select Indexing, Web Indexing. Now normally you would go to My Batches and find Batches, but I would recommend scrolling down until you find Groups and select Locust Grove Ward. After you're on the main Locust Grove Ward page, you can scroll down again and find these adopted projects that I've hand selected for us to do for indexing. Select one of these projects and click Index Now. The next topic I'd like to discuss is about images and entries. This is a little complicated, but is important to help you learn how to index and get started. Typically, an indexing batch has between 1 and 10 images associated with it. Each image may, or in rare cases may not, have information to index. Each unique set of information to be indexed on an image is called an entry. Often, one entry is for one person, but there are many exceptions. For example, in a marriage, one entry is for the couple. The indexing system doesn't necessarily know how many entries are needed for each image, but a guess is made for each project. I would recommend learning how to deal with images and entries so you can index like a pro. I will now demonstrate a few tricks. Okay, I'm now going to demonstrate images and entries. The first thing that you do after you select a batch, and I've chosen U.S. South Carolina County Marriage Licenses, is it's going to ask you, should this image be indexed? Most of the time, almost all of the time, the answer is going to be yes, but you can look at the image and we're really just looking for names and dates. And I can see names and dates on here. This looks like a marriage license, and so I'm going to say next image. The other thing I want to highlight is this says there are 4 images. I'm looking at image 1 of 4. So I'm going to very quickly go through these images. I'm very familiar with this, and so I know what these look like. and I can tell that these have information that needs to be indexed. And so that's the first step. You can even see up here, step 1 is images. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, we're at step 2, entries. And on image 1 of 4, this says entry 1 of 2. Now, as I look at this, it's clear to me that there is only one marriage license, one couple, one entry that is necessary on this particular single image. So image 1 of 4, even though the system thinks that there should be 2 entries, I can tell that there is only one. And that's okay. Again, the system doesn't always know what is going to be in each image, and it changes within the project. And so there's a couple of things that I can do. I can go select entry 2, and I know there's nothing there. And I'm going to come up here to this icon that looks like a trash can that says delete entries, and I'll delete that. And it's going to ask me some questions. Which entries do you want to delete? The current entry, entry 2, or all blank entries? Since I haven't filled anything out, if I select all blank entries, that will delete all entries, even the ones that I need. So for now, I'm going to just delete the current entry. Now you can see image 1 of 4 has just entry 1 of 1. There is only one entry that I'm going to enter for this one image. And once I do that, I can go to the next image. And now again, this project thinks every time there's going to be 2 entries, and again, because of my experience, I know there's only one set of information to be entered in. So I can again go and delete the second image. Delete the second entry, and I'm just going to delete the current one. And then I can index again and go to the next image. Now it happens sometimes that you get to the end and you find out, oh, I've done entry 1, I've done entry 2, and there's more people that need to be indexed from this single image. And so if that happened to be the case, you can add entries up here. And then it's going to give you some options. Typically you can go one at a time, typically after the last entry. But if you can see that there's 10 more entries, you could say, hey, I want 10 more entries after the last entry, and you can add them in. Also, when you're done with all of the pre-loaded entries, you can just click this Create Entry 3, and it will create Entry 3 after that. So again, as you're playing around with your indexing, please pay attention to both which image you're on and how many entries you're on. You don't need to feel worried if you get to a point where you've indexed everything on the card and it thinks there's more entries that you need to do. You can just go and delete the current entry. I'll show you a trick later that I do most common with extra entries, but for now, pay attention to images and entries, and that will be very important as you learn to index. Okay, the next tip that I want to give you is to work on the same project. After completing the first batch on a given project, if you got through it and you think you're starting to understand it, you should continue to index additional batches for that exact same project. If you index several batches from the same project, it will make you feel much more comfortable with the process and increase your speed and effectiveness. You can make a project a favorite so you can easily find it the next time that you index. So the tip, I would recommend that you work on the same project to help you become familiar with the system and to help you index like a pro. Okay, I will now demonstrate how you continue to work on the same project. After you've completed a project and you go to My Batches, you can find batches. This is the normal one with this All button selected, and you have all of the projects that are available for indexing here. But if there's one that you know that you want to do, first you have to remember the name of the project, and then you can come back in here and click on the star. That will add it to your favorites list. And then you can search not by all, but just by your favorites. And then you can find that Iowa County Obituaries and Cemetery Records, and you can keep indexing from that project again and again and again so you feel very comfortable with it. The next tip I would like to discuss that helps with indexing is to index with someone else, especially when you're getting started with indexing. It's beneficial to have a partner or a friend or someone else nearby that you can ask questions. Hey, does that look like the letter N to you? Or, do you think that's the marriage date? Or a bunch of other questions. Your helper doesn't need to be an expert at indexing, but just a second opinion to guide the process. What's really convenient is to have the helper and yourself sitting right next to each other, indexing on your own batch, so you can help each other as questions arise. So I would strongly recommend indexing with a family member or a friend, especially as you're getting started, to help you index like a pro. One of the challenging parts about indexing is trying to read someone else's handwriting, especially in cursive. I just wanted to highlight that when you're indexing, at the top there will be a toolbar. There's lots of buttons, but this one I find particularly handy. You click it and it'll pull up these handwriting examples so you can compare letters and different styles of cursive that were common. And this really helps to index that cursive handwriting that we're not very good at reading. The final tip that I want to discuss is to set a goal and to track progress. Our ward has a goal to index 5,000 records during the month of May. This will require effort and dedication by many members of our ward. The indexing system lets you set a goal and track your progress. Especially for this month, I would recommend that each person sets an indexing goal for May and sticks to it, and this will help you index like a pro. I want to quickly demonstrate how to set a goal for indexing for the month of May. From the main indexing page, just scroll down to Progress. Ensure it's set to indexing, most everyone should be, and then make sure it says Current and Month. And then simply click here to set a goal for how many records you think you can index during this month. Maybe Brother Spear says 500 indexing records. And then I can compare how I'm doing currently against that goal to help keep me on track. So I'd encourage everybody to set a goal for this month on how many records you can index during the month of May.